Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Chee-Tash. My name is Chris, and I got a little bit of a surprise for you, a new episode with a new book. And if you guys had tuned in last time to our Bell Curve series, I think I had mentioned at the end of that video that I'm gonna do a different book in the off weeks of the Bell Curve. So the rate that I'm posting with that, it's once every other week, or every other week I'll make a post. It's a thick book. I mean, really very detailed book. So I thought I'd do something in between those weeks that I post, a fun book. And I chose this book with winning in mind by Lanny Basham. He's a former Olympic gold medalist in shooting. Archery, I believe, shooting. I believe archery. And he wrote this book with winning in mind about mental management and how to get consistent performances just from working on your mindset when it comes to competition. I read this book about 2 years ago, I think, and I didn't really apply the principles in it, I don't think, as much, and I kind of rediscovered it and thought I'd reread it again and share with you the insights. And now actually going back, rereading it, I want to actually follow the principles in this book in goal setting and principles on your self-image, the conscious mind, subconscious mind. We're going to get into this stuff. Initially, I heard about this book from a Joe Rogan podcast with Faraz Sahabi. He has a jiu-jitsu school in Canada, and there's a lot of great insights in here. I can't wait to go over them with you guys, and let's just dive right into it. We started off pages 1 through 29 is what we're reading. And Laney starts off by saying, it doesn't matter if you win or lose until you lose. Right? So we can kind of like kid ourselves and say, hey, it's not whether you win or lose. It's all about, how you played, or, that you're a good sport about it, which, yes, I agree that those things are important. But at the end of the day, if you win, you're happy. If you win, it seems like you pick up momentum and it just carries over in other aspects in your life. It doesn't matter if you win or lose until you lose. Then it sucks, doesn't it? I mean, we've all been there. I've been there plenty of times, believe me. So Laney's story is kind of interesting. I want to focus more on the core principles of the book and not so much like the backstory. So I don't have much here besides that, Laney was not really good enough himself in sports when he was a youth. He struggled in all the sports that he was in until one day, he's talking to his father. He's kind of down in the dumps. He says he's not good at anything. And his dad says, well, you know what? There's nothing wrong with you. You just haven't found what you're good at yet. It's kind of like Thomas Edison said he failed. He tried like 1,000 times before he found the right components to create the light bulb. And somebody had asked him, well, how do you feel failing 1,000 times? He's like, I didn't fail 1,000 times. I just found 1,000 ways on how to not make a light bulb. So that's kind of similar thing what Lanny was going through here. He found shooting, and from there, it's kind of funny how he found shooting. It's like, well, I'm not tall. He was talking to his friend, and his friend was a member at this club, and the shooting club, and Lanny was like, but I'm not tall. And his friend says, well, you don't have to be tall. He said, I'm not fast. Well, you don't have to be fast. You just stand in one place and you shoot a gun at a target. And you know what? It fit Lanny's skill set. And not that he walked in probably with a certain skill set, but over countless hours of practicing, honing his craft, he eventually had some Olympic medals to show for it. And that confidence from building up his self-image changed him as a person. So his whole point here is that winning is a process. And there's this thing called the Pareto principle, which is basically kind of like the 80-20 rule. There's a book called the 80-20 rule. It stems from this guy, Pareto, in Italy, who had discovered that most of the land in Italy was controlled by just 20% of the people, I believe is how this goes. Don't exactly quote me on that, but that's kind of the gist of it. And in winning, it's the same thing. 95% of all winning is accomplished by only 5% of the participants. So let's think about this in athletics. Think about college football right now, the past 20 years. Think about who's won national championships. Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State. I mean, at least in the college football playoff era, it seems like those teams are always in it. Oklahoma, yeah. Then you got like a Georgia, LSU. But Alabama, Clemson. Ohio State. I mean, look at the NBA. Look at the championships that the Celtics and Lakers have won, just those two teams combined. 30-something odd championships. Look at in golf. Look at the majors in golf. Look at who's won majors in golf. It's a short list compared to a huge field. So there's these disparities in winning. And why Laney contends that there's these disparities because of winners have a different mindset of it. The guys who win view it as they're just trying to have a good performance versus they're trying to win. Don't get me wrong, it's kind of a fine line. It's like they believe they can win, but they're just focused on the process, on their performance. Because you can't really control the outcome, right? You can't control the weather, the elements, teammates, the other team, but you can control yourself. Comes back to man's search for meaning too. So many champions feel fortunate but not gifted. People think that it's talent. It's like you're born with something, but that's really not the case. Yeah, you're born with like height, you inherit strength and speed, but skill is something that's acquired and practiced and honed. It's not awarded. And that's what separates the winners from everybody else, is the way they think, their mindset. Winners are convinced they will finish first, and others just hope for it. And that's what Laney says. In order to start winning, you have to change your mindset. If it is not like you to win, then you have no chance to win. Now, if you think it's like you to win, you still might not win. But if you do not think you can win, you have no chance. That we can guarantee. And this is kind of something that I was alluding to in the previous slide. Champions, they don't try to win. Oftentimes when you try to win, you over-try. You try too hard. You're not loose. You're not just in this flow state. Instead, they just try to focus on having a good performance, like, hey, like a sport like football. Instead of focusing on, if I'm a wide receiver, that's what I played. If we are trying to win the game, right, that's the goal, I'm just focused on running the correct route every time, blocking the corner, my corner that's lined up over me on every single play, making sure that he does not get a tackle. And I want to catch every ball that's thrown to me. If I do those things, I'm going to have a successful performance. It's going to put my team in the best position to win. Now, if I'm focused on just the outcome, all of a sudden I lose focus of a ball that's thrown to me and I drop it. Well, that's not going to help us to the ultimate outcome of winning. So you focus on the process. Focus on your process. And there's a quote in the book, glorify God and process is primary. You want to work hard in practice, get your frustrations out of the way in practice, and then the competition should just come easy. You work so hard in practice to consciously work hard in practice in order to then have these skills translate into a subconscious skill. So now in competition, you don't have to use your conscious mind as much. We're going to talk about this in a few slides upcoming. That's the goal you want to have. You want to get these skills down to the point where it's just like breathing. It just happens. And now there's many ways to win, not just by finishing first. I mean, you could say you could have a winning performance. You could shoot your all-time lowest score on the golf course and still be beat by somebody who shot one stroke under you and they just had a crazy day too. Does that mean you necessarily lost? Well, depends on your mindset. You just shot the best that you ever did. You maxed out your ability. And Laney says in the book that you're a winner. You had a winning performance. And you shouldn't just shrug that off. You're advancing down the road to achievement. So there's kind of many ways to look at it. And again, this is what we were talking about. You gotta, when you go into a competition, and by the way, this doesn't just translate to sports, even though it's very sports centered. Translates to, hey, if you want to lose weight, if you want to perform better at work, not just sports, but in other aspects of life, you got to set a goal to have a winning performance instead of winning the competition. And you got to think about winning as in it's like you to win. Your self-image needs to believe that you are a winner. It's like you to win. Else, you're going to have a hard time winning. And it's funny because Laney mentions this, that performance, it seems like lots of athletes, lots of coaches believe that performance is 90% mental, but most people don't even train this part of their game. Why is that? And this is one of the quotes from the book. If you can define it, you can duplicate it. If you can duplicate it, you can achieve mental consistency. If you have mental consistency, you can win. It's all a process. So let me take a swig of my green tea here. So, starting on page 18, he starts to talk about mental management. And what is mental management? Well, mental management is the process of improving the probability of having a consistent mental performance under pressure on demand. And how do you do that? Well, that comes from being in balance between all three of your mental components. So this is what we've just mentioned earlier, the conscious mind, the subconscious mind, and your self-image. So what is the conscious mind? This is the part of your mind that is very active. It's thinking things. It's taking in mental pictures. It's controlling your senses, sight, smell, hearing, taste. It's taking in everything from your environment. Right? It's the one that thinks and like sets goals. Like, hey, what kind of success do I want to have? What kind of goals do I want to overcome? Obstacles do I want to come? What kind of goals do I want to set? That's what the conscious mind does. And then next we have the subconscious mind. This is the source of all the skills and the power to perform that's developed through repetitions of the certain skill, performing that certain skill, which you do by conscious thought. So consciously practicing a skill to the point where you develop it so much that it's just subconscious thought at that point. And the goal is to practice things consciously to the point where you can perform them subconsciously. And that way you make room to consciously practice new skills. Next, we have the self-image. It's acting like you. And this is the most important thing according to the author. It's got to be like you. You're acting like who you are. So every time we think of something, it creates an imprint that is stored in the self-image. And the self-image is how you see yourself. So you use your conscious mind to consciously think about who you are. That imprints on you as the self-image, and that's how you see yourself. If you consciously think, hey, I'm a winner, it's like me to win, well, your self-image is going to reflect that. And you're going to increase your chances of having a great performance. So I wrote this here. This is taken from the book, and the graphic here shows it, the arrow going left to right, as in this is kind of step by step 1, 2, 3. It's not necessarily like that. So this was probably not the best graphic to show, but I just wanted something fun in here just to kind of break it down for you guys. So the conscious mind sets the goals and examines the environment. The conscious mind is the one that practices, gets those reps in practice. The subconscious mind is then going to perform the tasks that were practiced by the conscious mind once you're in the field of play. And then the self-image controls the amount of subconscious skill you will use based on what it is like you to do. So if your self-image thinks that, hey, shooting a 300-yard drive, it's like me to shoot a 300-yard drive, well, it's going to control the amount of subconscious skill that you utilize in order to make that happen. That's kind of my interpretation of it. Your self-image, if your self-image thinks that, hey, it's not like me to shoot a 300-yard drive, then you're going to consciously try to. Your conscious mind is going to come in and try to do it. You don't necessarily want that. You want that to be a subconscious skill that you're able to just tap into because you've practiced it so much. So when everything's in balance, let me go to page 23 here. When everything's in balance, everything just seems like it flows, doesn't it? Like when you're really performing in whatever you do, it just seems like it's flowing. It seems effortless, right? I think we can all attest to that. I've seen this in golf, for example. It seems like when I'm in a state of flow, I don't even have to swing at the ball very hard. And it travels further than if I try to really grip the club tightly and really use my arms and crank it. No, just nice and easy. Just like water. Water flows. Air flows too, I guess, but you know what I mean. In order to have this kind of flow state, the conscious, subconscious, and self-image mental components have to all be in balance. So here's what it looks like when it's in balance. These are taken from the book. The circles represent the mental components. So conscious, subconscious, and self-image are all in balance. All the circles are equal. This is where your conscious is focused on the process. Your subconscious has the skills that are within your reach as long as you call on them. Your subconscious knows what to do. You've practiced it so much. And then your self-image is positive and thinks it's like me to win. Now, this is where things get out of balance. So your conscious mind, the big C circle, dwarfs the other two circles. And this is kind of what happens when you begin a new activity. You're thinking about doing it. You're trying to grasp the concepts. Like if you're the first time you had piano lessons, music lessons, whatever, you're trying really, really hard to understand like where my fingers go, which keys to press. It's not quite in your subconscious mind yet. So you're using a lot of consciousness to try to make that skill turn into a subconscious skill. So your subconscious is not yet developed, and then your self-image is low because it's telling you, hey, you're just a beginner. It's not quite like you to be a Mozart. You're still a beginner. So this is when you're out of balance, too much conscious involved, but it also happens when your conscious and subconscious are great, they're in balance. You're doing great in practice, but your self-image did not keep up with the conscious or subconscious. So this is, Lanny describes as somebody who scores well in practice, does phenomenal in practice, but in competition, he still lacks behind and he's not able to win because that self-image has not grown and kept pace. You don't quite believe in yourself yet. And they've done so much, a person in this kind of state has done so much practicing on the physical aspects of the game, but they don't work on this self-image aspect of it. Now, there's another scenario is where your subconscious and your self-image are in balance with each other. They're adequate, but your conscious mind has lagged behind. This is where in competition you put too much emphasis on the environment over your process. The environment has become a distraction for you. Your conscious mind is too focused on everything outside of it that's not within its control. So if you're on the golf course, okay, sure, you've developed the subconscious skill and you believe you can win. You've rehearsed this, but you're too focused on your partner. You're too focused on the scoreboard. And Lanny talks about this gunslinger mentality where, the sharpshooter in the West who's a really good shot, but, twirls his gun around, blows on the barrel like you see in the movies, and ends up shooting himself because he's too distracted. He's not focused on the process. And then there's the problem of overconfidence, where your conscious and subconscious are adequate, but your self-image becomes oversized. And the subconscious skill that is contained within you doesn't keep pace. This is somebody who thinks he deserves to win. Not just, I think I can win. No, I deserve to win. He's very boastful without having the adequate subconscious skill to back it up. So the point of this book is what we're going to see in subsequent chapters is that, you got to try to get all of these in balance with each other. You don't want to spend a lot of time and energy on building these up and not progress, because this is what happens when you spend a lot of time and energy building some of them up and one lags behind and you're wondering why you're still not winning these competitions or obtaining your goals. It can become frustrating. And it's frustrating because you don't really maybe understand what's going on with you, but it's just that most likely you're out of balance somewhere in those three things. So Lanny asks to end these slides, he asks, ask yourself, am I out of balance? Am I concentrating on my goals? Do I really possess the skills to do my job well? Do I need more training? Is it like me to do the job? Or do I need to change something about myself in order to do the work properly? All of these questions attempt to get at which one of your mental components is out of balance. And with that, I think, that was the ending. So we're going to get into this a lot more in these upcoming chapters. The next chapter we'll do principles of mental management. And let's see, for next time, let's read. We left off at page 29. If we can get up to maybe 79, we might do that. 29 through 79 for next time. So this will be in 2 weeks. I'm going to get up another episode of the Bell Curve by next weekend. And then we'll just, like I said, we'll do With Winning in Mind every other week. So get you guys a video every weekend, or at least that's the goal right now. Well, goals, I'm reading about that in this book right now, trying to obtain some goals and get better at writing goals for myself, hold myself accountable. But I hope you guys enjoy this book. It'll be a nice break from kind of the data intensive and like theory intensive book, The Bell Curve, which I do enjoy, but it's tough. I wish I could do it on a weekly basis, and I could, but just get a nice break with this book With Winning in Mind. A lot shorter too. So I will see you guys next week with another edition of the Bell Curve, and hope you guys like this. Let me know what you think. Thank you very much if you've listened this far, and I will see you next week. This has been Chee-Tash. Thank you, and take care.